And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. Now, before we bring in our guest this morning, we want to remind you this is our candidate 6th congressional special election, Georgia election candidate interviews. We invited all 18 candidates, 11 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 2 independents. We have invited all 18 to do an approximately 30-minute interview. And so if your candidate has not been interviewed, just maybe you can call and say, why have they not responded? I said that nicely. But we're now this morning, we're joined by Democrat candidate, which I met last night and enjoyed meeting this lady last night at the forum in Roswell yesterday afternoon, Ragin Edwards. Miss Edwards, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Good morning.
You know, I was at the forum last night, and let me just start by this. Let me go with, first of all, what I do with every candidate. I'm looking at your website, and it says, we'll ask this question, why Ragin? So tell the viewers why choose you in this race? Why Ragin?
Well, there's many reasons, but the main reasons are these. My family has historically fought for civil rights and for the voice of those that are unheard. And my family also has been very successful in the private sector. And I have perspective. I've done everything from working with presidential appointees in DC to working in the federal government in DC under the Department of Energy and the Civil Rights Group, to being a social worker working with people that needed energy and rental assistance. And I go all the way to the other side of the spectrum. I've also worked for publicly traded companies reporting directly to the CEO and CFO of global organizations. So I have perspective that a lot of the candidates do not have. I don't think any of them have as much perspective as I do. I understand, and I've talked with people that needed help with, their rent and energy and having to approve or deny them, as well as helping global companies be successful and moving into new markets in the world. So I understand the needs of people in all of those different positions, and I'm able to speak to them as well as strategize and come up with ideas that will benefit all parties rather than just focusing on one or another.
Okay, in Georgia, in Georgia congressionally, there are no women in
Hmm.
representing the state of Georgia at this time. And last night,
Hmm.
not to quote you, yesterday afternoon at the
Hmm.
forum, just tell us in your own words. You made about 500 in the room. You made a plea to them. It's time to send a woman to Washington D.C. in the state of Georgia, and then you went
Yes.
into how women are basically not represented in the political spectrum of the state. So, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, well, a study was done, and Georgia, when you look at the state and federal elected, when there's none in federal, 0 out of 14, but we are number 49 in the country. The only one that's worse is Louisiana. We need to elect women. Georgia has been number 2 in the past 7 years of growth for women-owned businesses. Um, the state is half female. We need representation at the federal level, especially when women's rights, education, etc., are all being discussed at this federal level at this time. We need a women's perspective. Women, our moms just like men are fathers, but our perspective, just like our roles in a family, are a little different, but they're needed so that America can succeed. And, I'm a Democrat, and I think whatever you feel on different issues, the basis of the Democratic Party is equality and making sure that everyone has a voice. And it just surprises me that the Democrats are not trying to rally behind a woman. They're rallying behind someone that can raise money. And, I understand everyone, every group, any nonprofit or any other group needs money, and I understand why they like that. But at the same time, we have to bring the federal government back to the people. And that has been the problem all around the board, is that we keep electing people that have no perspective. We have to start electing people that have perspective, that have insight, that are capable, that are able to speak up and don't have any puppeteer strings attached to them where they must vote with their party, or they have any other special interests, lobbyists that are determining which way they should vote. You need people like me, people that are here for the people. And that's why I'm running, because I'm here for the people.
Reagan, let me ask you a question now. There's a couple things that you brought up there that I need to ask you about.
Hmm.
You said why the party, I don't want to quote you, but if I remember, why the party or Democrats are not getting behind a woman.
Hmm.
Now, yesterday there was some discussion, and I don't want to bring up other candidates, but there was some discussion about maybe one of the candidates and qualified as Democrats is getting a little more support or getting support from the DCCC, DNC,
Hmm.
and some national websites. And then you also said a politician voting a puppet with strings. Can you elaborate a little more on that? And yesterday, when some of those comments were being made
Hmm.
about some candidates that appear to be getting support from the DCCC and so forth. Can you comment on that a little bit? Because I seen five
Hmm.
candidates. I'm going to tell you straight, okay? I seen five
Hmm.
candidates on the stage. I watched all of you for 2 hours. I videoed it. I
Hmm.
actually enjoyed listening to all of you discuss the issues that are important to your base.
Hmm.
But if I pick up the media this morning, it's hard to figure out there's 5 Democrats in the race. Now, that's just me saying that. So what say
Right.
you?
Well, it's just the truth of the matter. I think what's said is that they do not support any Democratic candidate. They're going to give the same amount of support behind all Democratic candidates until there's only one. And I mean, as you can see, as you just said, no, that's not what's happening. That's just not what's happening. The other candidates alluded it too. We're having trouble getting support from the party that we all paid our money to qualify, and we're not getting the support that the other candidate is getting, the one with the most money, and that uh, you know that's just the truth of the matter. Um, it's not supposed to be that way. There are just even other things that you can see from people now putting in alphabetical order. Everyone always knows when you do alphabetical order, you do it by the last name. That's how it's always been done. But all of a sudden now, when you see our names put in alphabetical order, it's by the first name. There's just from little small things to that to, I'm sure, bigger things that we don't have any, we're not privy to because we're not on that person's campaign. There's been some favoritism, and that's just the truth of the matter. I just say puppeteer strings because that's what special interests do. That's when you have a government that's run by money, it becomes an oligarch. That's what it is. And we've seen that time and time again. That is history. If we don't know our history, we're doomed to repeat it. If we keep putting people in place because they have the biggest purse, and the candidate with the most money, from what I understand, hasn't he has the same problem Betsy DeVos has. Now we scream and yell about Betsy DeVos because she didn't go to public school and her children didn't go, but yet we want to elect someone that graduated from a private high school, doesn't understand
See,
what
I
it
agree,
is
I
to.
agree with that, Reagan. I got to be with you on
Hmm.
that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think, okay, if you're on the Democrat side and you
Hmm.
are a Democrat. I listened last night. I've read your platform. I mean
Hmm.
your issues, and you're in line with Democrat Party. Okay, that's fine.
Hmm.
It's America. Last I looked, you're allowed to
Right.
do that. But if you're going to argue with on the Democrat side of why you don't want Betsy DeVos, it's pretty hard to say the person you want to send there
It's just like her.
just,
Yeah.
just saying, all right? It's called the
Right.
obvious. Uh,
Yeah.
so yes, and I'm trying to stay away from that, but at the other time,
Hmm.
Democrats do. There is room in this actual election with Tom Price retiring for
Hmm.
maybe it to switch to Democrat. I mean, there's room for
Hmm.
that. That'll be up to the voters. How do you now? One of the candidates said, "Oh, they want to win on April 18th." Now, reality
Hmm.
is that's not going to happen. Now, I'm an optimistic person.
Right.
I believe in being optimistic. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But reality says
Yeah.
out of 18, we're going to a runoff. Nobody's going to get 50. That would be a very
One.
strong
Yeah.
candidate,
51.
50 plus one. So
Yes. Sorry.
how do you get to that runoff, and how do you win the sixth?
Well, something that's very important to me, and I alluded to it earlier, is that I'm here for the people. Now, I graduated high school in East Cobb. I've always been middle class, just below upper middle class, and um, I definitely understand what people in this tax bracket need. Um, I am I am not someone that is so democratic that I will not vote across the aisle when the people in the sixth district want me to do that. And that's why it's so important for me to open up transparency and have a platform where the people in the sixth can tell me how they want to vote on specific issues so that I can be true. We live in a representative democracy. I want to represent everyone. Now, being a Democrat, yes, I do have certain morals and beliefs that I will not, I will not change. And that is, there should be equality. We should not be treating any group or demographic of people different than any other group. I believe education should be accessible to all children. There's no reason why, and that includes special needs children as well as, regular children. There's no reason why we should take any funding away from education. Um, Healthcare, I believe everyone should have access to affordable healthcare. There's no reason why we live in the greatest country on earth and every other, top country in the world where you look at Canada or, or the UK or France, uh, they have access to affordable healthcare, if not free healthcare. So, um, I think those are just basic principles that are important to move our democracy forward. But I am not opposed to listening to my constituents, and if they want to vote a certain way and it makes sense for our demographic, we do have a district that is very educated, a district that is again a little bit higher on in the tax bracket. So. And I totally understand that. I work in a company every day, so I understand needing to be able to provide for my family, et cetera. So I think that is going to resonate because, again, I am not some, career politician that's been trying to set up my life so that I can, become president one day. That's not me. I'm someone that's really here for the people.
Well, let me ask you this. I want to give you an opportunity, I'm going to say, to clear something up. I think in the back of the room, I understood what you were trying to say
Hmm.
when it came to Donald Trump. And I don't want to quote, you said he told the truth.
Hmm.
I think you were going down a road of saying, Trump supporters, the people that Trump supporters, uh,
Hmm.
he talked directly to them and he
Hmm.
engaged them, and they felt he was being directly honest with them, and that's Trump supporters. Am I going down the right road?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
because I
I
wanted to
think
give you an
yes.
opportunity, because in the back,
Thank
I
you.
didn't, well, in the back of the room, I didn't think you were trying to say that Donald Trump, to your supporters out there,
Hmm.
that Donald Trump told the truth. So I want to give you a chance to see if you can clear up what you meant by what that road you were going down.
Yes, what I meant was that, it's all, first of all, it's all about perspective, as I said before. And I think that, well, I have a lot of feelings about it, being that I took a lot of psychology classes in college as well. But I think when he said that he felt, certain people are all rapists and killers, I think I think he really thinks that. You know what I mean? I think that he really wants to build a wall. I think that's what he wants to do. And I think he said something that resonated with people because from coming from him, it was honest. Now he did tell a lot of lies that he's gone back on with, even saying, he was going to allow U.S. Steel to build the pipeline. Now they're going to use Chinese steel and many, many other things. But I think there was, I think that the people that voted for him felt like he was honest, and I think that's what the people gravitated towards. And I think they're just tired of the regular politicians that they know or they feel that are always lying to them. That that Stepford wife of politician that says the canned answer without being honest to themselves or to what they
Well,
I
can
don't
I?
think he's an honest person though.
I didn't. I didn't pick up that you thought it was. Now that I never picked up yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up yesterday. But let me say this, and see if this is where you're kind of going. Your website, and I heard you yesterday and this morning. Your website is you're the candidate with no strings attached, and I think for Donald Trump supporters, they seen that with him that he had on the Republican side. On the Republican side, he wasn't the traditional Republican. He wasn't the establishment Republican, and he did not have strings attached to him.
Right.
Could we flip that over to the Democrat side and say that may be a possibility of the direction you're going, that you have no strings attached to you?
Well, in the only difference is I'm telling the truth. I don't have
Okay.
any tax giving me
All
millions
right.
and millions of dollars and me just saying something and hoping that you don't look at my statements. But no, I don't. I don't have any long-lasting relationships with other Democrats in Congress or local government, or excuse me, state government. I don't. I am not going to be swayed by anything but the people. Now, I am willing to listen, but when you have people that have been, their families and probably for generations have been, in bed with, different politicians, then there's always going to be some sort of bias. There's always going to be some strings attached. There's always going to be some, I did this for you, you need to do this for me. And that's just how it works. Unfortunately, that's why we need to elect people that are like us. We need to elect the 99% that go to work every day, that have children in school, even whether it's private, but understand because they've been there. They may have went to public school themselves. Um, People that know what it is to buy the milk, people that understand what the 99% life is about. And that's me.
Well, let me ask you just a couple quick things as we close. Right now,
Hmm.
the issue of the day and the topic of the day is the health care, and it's the Affordable Care
Hmm.
Act. And
Hmm.
the Republicans are in the House right now working on what they're calling the American Health Care Plan to replace that. Um,
Hmm.
so what say you now? Now I've asked all the candidates. They said there's going to be three phases to this
Hmm.
plan, and the last one will be legislative, where they'll start legislatively changing things to the health care plan.
Hmm.
You could possibly be up there in the next couple months and be involved in what's going on. What
Hmm.
do you
Yes.
say? What do you say? Have you had a chance to look at the new plan, look at some of the things it changes?
Hmm.
Is there anything in there you could support for your district? And that's what I'm saying. Let's talk clearly for your district. Are there things in there you could
Hmm.
support? Are you totally against it? And what
Hmm.
would you do concerning health care?
um, I you know I think that there are definitely pieces of the ACA that need to be tweaked and fixed. I mean, even Obama said that. And I feel that the way they're going is totally in the wrong direction right now. If they're going to raise premiums 5, 6 times for working Americans, someone like me, that would be more than I pay to live every month. So we have to bring a solution that will, let me just backtrack a bit. Part of the problem with the Affordable Care Act is that the states that needed it the most, like Florida, did not buy into it, and that's a huge problem. Even Georgia, and we need to have more people on the plan for the costs to be distributed in a better way. That's more that's better for everyone. That has insurance, whether it's even through your company. So I think the best way to go about this first is to, and I don't want to say incentivize, because I don't think any state should be treated different than any other, but maybe there need to be special considerations given if certain states would allow it. Because I know a state like Florida that has 5 million people that would definitely sign up for the ACA if it was available to them. That would help with the cost, and I think you start there. But allowing the top end to get the benefit off of healthcare, and while the bottom end is going to suffer, is not the way to go at all.
Is there two last things that I've asked all the candidates there, regardless of Democrat or Republican. Now, are there things that you think? Right now, we're seeing, my words, a lot of obstruction is what I'd call it, obstruction, and it doesn't matter. And I did see this in argument's sake, with a limited amount of time. I did see Republicans that, if Obama said it, it wasn't going to happen. So I do understand there's things happen on both sides of the aisle, regardless of who's in the White House. At this time, President of the United States, he's there. Is there things, if you went there, would you be able to work with him as the President of the United States? I guess, am I saying, are you accepting him as President of the United States, or do you think that the issues with the wiretapping, the issues with the Russians, other things, I mean, could you go work with him on policy, or how do you see it?
I would say just a couple things on that. I would not, like the HBCUs, met with him and it was basically a photo op for him. I would not do any photo op meetings or any of that. I think if he, it's hard to trust someone that changes what they say a lot. But I would say if they came up with something that made sense, I would definitely, as a freshman in Congress, there are groups that help you learn how to acclimate to how Congress works from the inside, et cetera. So I would definitely work with those who have been there to learn, what's the protocol, and still, because I'm from the outside, I'm still able to think outside of the box. But I'm a negotiator. I would be very careful in the dealings that I had with them, and I would make sure that, just like I do, in my everyday life, and I would make sure that, if I was going to negotiate any legislation, that I was very careful to make sure that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted. But I don't think that, I'm still an optimist, and I hope, and I believe in God, and the Bible says, the king's heart is in God's hand. So, I'm not saying that something would not come across that would be a great idea. But I would definitely make sure that I read over it 100 times before I would go forward.
Well, but I did hear you say earlier that you would take every piece of legislation and not actually just look at it straight down party lines. You would look at it as what's best for your district and how your district wanted you to. What is our last question, Ms. Edwards, is again, this is the 6th Congressional District, and specifically in that district right there, what is the number one thing that you feel you could go to Washington, D.C., and you need to do or work towards for your district?
Okay, the issues that plague us today are very important. And, as I said, affordable health care, protecting veterans' benefits, making sure that the middle and the upper middle class is sustained and that we are not overtaxed, whether it be through taxes or health care or other laws that could come into play that would hurt us financially. My The way I can help the sixth district the best is setting it up so that whoever comes after me will not be able to run over them. And that is through opening up transparency in government. I will put forth a cloud platform that will allow them to tell me how they want to vote. I will then report that information back to them. And for topics that aren't sensitive, I will also give my own dissertation, if you will, of why I voted that way. And I think that is the best way to come out of or drain the swamp, as they say, is to open up transparency. We have to, until we can know what our constituents want, and this whole thing that we have about calling in and hoping that someone checks a box or leaving a voicemail, none of that is ever given back to the public. The public never knows how many people said yay or nay. And that is the problem. That's why people feel that they're unheard and they have to carry around AKs so people see that they want gun rights. That's why people have to march in hundreds of thousands of women and scream about the rights that they should have and the LGBTQ, et cetera. That's why, because we feel that we're not heard because Congress and elected officials do not put forth platforms that allow us to be heard. So if we can file our taxes, if we can do our banking, some people even find their husband or wife online. Like, seriously, we should be able to vote which way we want certain legislation to go. And that's what I will do. I'm looking at today. I will definitely fervently attack the problems that plague us today, but it is also about the future and how do we save this country from becoming run by money and not by the people.
Yeah, let me just say this. So, did I hear you correctly? Like you would put something up where it's online and a bill that was coming up, you would let your district go there and say, "Hey, I like this or don't like that," and you'd be able to see if
Yes.
okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
Second Amendment.
hmm
Where are you at on the Second Amendment?
I do believe that people have the right to bear arms, but I don't think that anyone with any mental issues should be able to purchase firearms. I don't think anyone on the no-fly list should be able to purchase firearms. And there are some types of automatic weapons that do not kill deer. You would not be able to eat the meat. So I do think we just have to use common sense when we look at things like that. I think that, you know, it's a touchy subject for some, and I understand, and I don't want to, I definitely would never take the right to bear arms away. I would never do that. But I think we have to look at this from the perspective of the parents of the children at Sandy Hook. I think we have to look at this from the perspective of the families that lost their loved ones when that military or former military person, shot those people in the Florida airport. We can't let things like that happen again. And those people definitely had mental issues. Their psychologists knew it, and they were still allowed to have firearms and purchase firearms.
Well, Miss
That
Edwards,
shouldn't happen.
we've run out of time, and
All right.
but I do want to say thank you very much. I want to tell you how much I enjoyed meeting you yesterday.
Oh,
We enjoyed
wonderful.
that.
Thank you.
And just to let you know that yesterday's forum is on our YouTube channel. That is
Okay.
FYNTV, Fetcher News. We recorded yesterday, and it's up there. So we appreciate that. And this interview will be up also on our YouTube channel later today. So
Wonderful, wonderful.
we'll leave you with what we tell all candidates. We thank you for your willingness to serve your district, and we wish you well in your campaign, Miss Edwards. You have a nice day.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to address all of your listeners.
You're welcome. Okay, that's Democrat candidate Ragin Edwards, and there's 5 candidates, Democrat candidates in that race. We're going to go to break. I want to thank Ms. Edwards for being on with us. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up, and I want to highlight something she said when we come back. So I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. Take us a break.